Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. In this one, I'm going to be teaching you how to clone and pwn like Al Capone. Boomkin is definitely climbing up the ladder in terms of viability. Now running the Kyrian plus Necro Lord melee DPS is really becoming a popular combination. I'm seeing Boomkin Rogue a lot. I'm seeing Boomkin Demon Hunter, Boomkin Warrior. Just combining the Necro Lord plus the Kyrian Boomkin seems to be a really good formula. This is also the same for Feral Druids. In this video, I'll be fighting a Feral Druid Warrior. This is a very popular composition at the moment as well, or at least increasing in popularity for the same reason that the Boomkin is. It's definitely a good time to be a Druid if you haven't made one at this point. Now, if you are seeing any of these Arms Warriors and you're seeing any of these Feral Druids or Boomkins running this Kindred Spirits build with a Necro Lord, you really need to be paying close attention to it, because if you don't, you are going to be evaporated from the match. So it is very important that you have a couple of options here to go over. You can purge off the empowerment from the balanced druid or the target that's being applied to. It looks like a big blue buff. If you don't have time to purge it, then you're going to want to immediately trade a defensive cooldown. And if you aren't able to do that, you better have made sure that you crowd controlled the target that is attacking with that cooldown, because otherwise you're probably already out of the game at this point. So you definitely need to be paying very close attention to it. And they're normally going to be combining it with a Necro Lord War Banner from the Warrior. So as soon as you see that green banner pop up behind the Warrior, you know that they're going ham. You're going to want to get control of them, stun them, clone them, heal whoever's being targeted. Usually your shaman is going to be getting tunneled, but not always. So you want to be aware of that whenever the enemies are swapping around. And I'm just going to be covering my thoughts in this specific match so that you can take these and apply them to your own gameplay and start to see a little bit more success, hopefully. And here you can see the fight's about to start, and they're going to have two targets that can go into stealth, the Feral Druid and the Resto Druid. So I just start by dotting the Warrior immediately. I'm mostly trying to create space between the Warrior and my Shaman, kind of just playing like a body blocker. I don't really want them to target the Shaman. That is the scariest target. I'm going to immediately cast two Solar Wraths to get into Eclipse, and I'm going to start dumping Star Surges to stack up my Moonkin Aura. But here you can see double stun. That's the banner. That's the avatar. My Demon Hunter is going to stun both of them and immediately press Darkness. You can see how that was just he's at 100% health, right? He's going to drop Darkness, stay inside of that Darkness for the whole duration. And that is because if you don't do this, if you do not trinket immediately when you see those cooldowns lit up and you don't trade something or CC them immediately, you're gone. So it looks like nothing happened. Like, oh, why did he just drop Darkness there? It's because he would have been dead if he didn't press it. And you have to respond that fast. Have to see those cooldowns. Now that we've survived their blast, we're going to turn it around. We're going to activate our Kindred Empowerment. We're going to jump on the Resto Druid, stun lock the whole team, and try and blast them down the same way that they tried to just do to us. They intercept. They're going to use Fear and a stun on me to stop all of our damage, but we do ultimately net the Tranquility Bubble from the Resto Druid. I think swapping the Resto Druids as this composition is very powerful. You can put them on the back foot heavily by spamming Purge and switching off their heal over time effects. And then in the meantime, between the goes, I'm generating Astral Power and just cloning the DPS, trying to assist. So we're going after the Warrior, baiting trinkets. Here we get the Feral Druid to trinket, which means we can clone them later on when it's going to be more scary. We're just spamming out clones, trying to soak interrupts for our team. Here the enemies have crowd controlled all three members of our side. They have not used the Kindred Empowerment, though, at this point in time. And you can see that the Demon Hunter is taking a lot less damage, is able to more easily survive that. So I go for a clone on the Resto Druid. It is that empowerment go when they start glowing blue that you really need to be careful of. It's like SSJ Super God Saiyan Ascended ×5 or whatever you want to say. And here we go for a clone on the Feral Druid at low health on defensive cooldowns. This is an important component. The Rallying Cry is going to fall off. They lose that health in the clone. This buys time for us to switch crowd control over to the enemy healer, so we can use something like an Imprison or a Stun at this point, right when the clone ends. This way the healing is not continuing onto the Feral Druid, and he's basically now just running for his life. I'm going to sit back here babysitting the Resto Druid, looking for clones. And this is the other part of this is always swapping targets. Like we're doing these big cooldown swaps to the Resto. Then we went after the Feral Druid, blasted them low. We're going to send our Empowerment while the enemy healer's in a Cyclone and try and dump our Star Surges, dump our Fury of Elune at this point in time. It's going to be the most optimal. But the Feral Druid did a great job of just line of sighting and avoiding us, frustratingly enough for us. Otherwise, the game would have been over at that point. So once the Feral Druid is no longer really a target, we can then just switch back. We can go after the Warrior, attack a target target that doesn't have heal over time effects, and get ready because they're going to have that Kindred Spirits for this next stun lock here. So Kindred Spirits, Demon Hunter immediately is at 30%. We're going to Trinket and Spirit Link. And you can see that that has to happen because you will just get completely eradicated. It happens every minute. So it's going to be one stun lock, big cooldowns, make a big trade. Next stun lock, you're not as afraid. Third stun lock, you are scared. And then fourth, not that scary. So every second stun, you're going to be very afraid, basically in a matchup against these Kindred Spirits Druids. You need to be ready to just immediately trade a cooldown as soon as you see that it's activated. Here we go for double stun. Could have probably cast a clone on healer at this point, but instead I cloned the Feral. This is mostly because the Feral also heals. And they had Bark Skin up, so my main goal is to stop damage with clones, but also to prevent defense. So if an enemy uses a Bark Skin or a Wall or an Iron Bark or something, I want to clone that target so it doesn't immediately recover and get free time. Here comes the stun lock, but there's no Kindred Spirits on this stun lock. And you can see that the Demon Hunter is taking way less damage than when it was with the Kindred Spirits. They're just hovering at 50% health, and they're basically just chilling at this point. So now we can get a bit more aggressive, try and get our Boomkin aura to maintain here on the Feral Druid by dumping these Star Surges. It's something that I'm always working on, is trying to maintain the Boomkin aura, and you can see that up at the top. Here I clone the Resto Druid, and I'm telling my team that I want to make a swap to the Resto Druid because you can clone a healer that's going to hold them in place, and then your allies can get on top of that healer while they're cloned, and then you can really easily swap to them. So I'm going to activate my Eclipse while the healer is cloned. I'm going to be telling my team that I want to be making a swap to the healer as soon as possible because they have no trinket, and we got their Tranquility Bubble earlier on in the game. So when we have our big Empower, that is the target that is most likely to die at this point with no trinket and no immunity to death. I want to clone the Feral Druid, and I want to stun the healer, but they're also popping their Necro Banner. So we're going to want to trinket, drop Blur, stun, Empower. Feral is cloned on their Kindred Spirits. We're launching ours. Nuclear launch detected, and that's gonna be lights out for the Resto Druid. So we removed the Feral from being able to heal the healer. At that point, we set up and tried to tell our team to swap to the Druid. Their hots fell off in the Cyclone, and we could blast all of that damage out onto the healer and be able to kind of more or less easily close out the game by making a swap. But some of these compositions can be very scary. I'm actually wondering if I have a video of it where you guys can see the kind of receiving end of the amount of damage that these classes can do, because I'm pretty sure we've definitely lost some of these games. So you can see what happens when you don't respond or you don't have an answer to these types of cooldowns. So I think it's right about maybe here. Is this game so fast that we literally died in the opener? It might actually be. Sometimes you might just die through everything, and you don't want to get frustrated when that happens. So here we've dropped Darkness, we've dropped Blur. They're both glowing blue, right? We see them both glowing blue. They got the big green banner. That is the scary, 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 scary time. So we've used Trinket, we used Blur. They switch off of that. They go to the Shaman. The Shaman's going to press their wall and soak the damage, but they immediately go back, and their cooldowns are still up, and Blur has just ended. And I think he just gets kind of karate chopped in half at this point or something with the Kindred Spirit still up. But maybe not. Maybe if we run this at full speed, we'll be able to get to the kill. Regardless, we have no cooldowns here. We have still a Trinket Spirit Link. It's not going to be an empowerment go on this next stun lock, but because we don't really have any options, maybe it doesn't matter. We're just creating pressure onto the Warrior, pressure onto the Feral Druid, really just waiting to show how much damage that this comp can do in this clip particularly. So our healer's in a stun, our other guy's in the stun. We want to clone. Feral Druid interrupts that because they want to stop us from stopping their damage, but that wasn't the Kindred Empowerment. So we're still waiting to see when that's going to come. They actually just commit CC, so we don't have a trinket here. I think this ultimately is what ends up killing us, is just not having a trinket to escape this fear or to connect the Spirit Link totem. So our Demon Hunters can use Metamorphosis to try and run and hide, but it's really not enough. Sharpened Blade's going to reduce the healing and execute range, and we try and panic stun the whole team, try and get control of the fight. And we actually managed to survive there. When did we die? Does he just execute him for 40% of his health? That's one of those things where you got to just kind of accept your fate. I think it's the Kindred Empowerment that ends up killing him. So we'll just wait a second to see, and you'll be able to see how powerful those cooldowns are. So right here we see Warbreaker. It's activated here from the Omnibar. And then do they start glowing blue? That's when you really just need to be paying the most attention, because that's when people are very scary at the moment in PvP. And we'll see how fast he dies. Like, is he able to get blur? So he pre-blurs. That's a lot of extra damage reduction. They go for the stun anyways. And I think they start glowing blue. We'll have to wait and see. They stunned me as well. Oh, they're just waiting for the blur to end. So we were in a tough spot where you kind of had to pre-blur because we don't have trinkets to escape crowd control to activate those defensive cooldowns. In that situation, you're forced to use them preemptively. think we just went for a YOLO swap onto the healer to try and end the game, which, I mean, could have been a good option here. I've got all my damaging cooldowns, so just going for the kill right before we're about to die and maybe being able to close it out was really our only option. But they know that Demon Hunter has no trinket. They know that Demon Hunter has no blur, has no darkness. Shaman has no trinket. So here comes the dam, I think, right here. There it is. Big damage comes out. They're glowing blue. Healer's in a clone. Karate chop down to half. Karate chop down to 20%. Just high out of the game. We dropped Spear Link, actually. Does he manage to survive? How long does this game go on? I'm thinking that this game should have been over at this point, where they have the Kindred Spirits. Maybe they just hack and slash him right after the link and still even kill him through is maybe what I'm guessing. Yeah, so they're still glowing blue. You can see them both with the Kindred Empowerment. And does he actually... Did I pick the wrong clip now, funnily enough, to try and show this off? So they get a double clone onto both of us. And they're just kind of going for the kill. They're still glowing blue, so they're still very scary. And that's why purging it off can be important, because it lasts for such a long time. And yeah, they were just able to cut them down. Not honestly the most quick death that I've actually seen from this composition. Sometimes you can see this comp just like two-shot somebody in one global, 20k Ferocious Bite, 20k, maybe 30k Execute, and you're just gone. So you got to be ready for when they're going blue. You got to make that trade and try and control them. Otherwise, it's basically lights out at that point. And even still, even if you play perfectly, you might not be able to pull it off. But I wanted to bring a strategy to you guys to help you out and be able to give you some gameplay. I hope that this video is useful to you and improved your gameplay as well. And other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. If you'd like to follow me live, I'm streaming on twitch.tv/Supatease every day. So if you'd like to get in on some viewer games or just ask some questions on my live stream, that is where I will be every day. And other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I will see you in the next one.